Hi guys, and in today's video I'm going to show you a lot of the different item combinations that are in PSO Blue Burst. Hi guys, and in today's video for PSO Blue Burst, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the different item combinations that are in the game. So PSO has a feature where there are several items in the game that you can either only make from combining certain items, or some of them can be found or combined. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down into a few different sections because there are quite a few different item combinations in the game. So what we'll do is we'll start off with the different hunter weapons that you can make through combinations. Then we'll move on to range weapons, then force weapons, and then armor. So to start out with the hunter weapons, essentially the way the item combinations work is normally what you need to do is equip one of the items in the combination and then use the other one on it. Now, the way that works in practice depends on what the actual combination is. So some of the combinations will be a weapon combined with a tool item. If that's the case, it's really simple. You just equip the weapon and then use the tool item while the weapon's equipped. There are some combinations though that actually involve two weapons that are being combined. So for those, the way that they work is you equip one weapon and then you use the other one. In that situation, what will happen is the attributes from the weapon that you've got equipped will be the ones that carry over to the final weapon. There is also one special item as well that has kind of an item combination, or rather a transformation, but it's not actually done through combining items, so I'll cover that as well. So just to reiterate, this is on the sandbox version of Infinity, so this is why I have all this stuff, because I don't have most of this on my actual character. So for hunters, there are a few different item combinations for specific hunter weapons. So the first one that you need is if you find a Lavis cannon. So Lavis cannon is a 11-star saber. It's extremely rare, extremely hard to get. Looks really cool and has a pretty unique special where it actually fires like a piercing wave. Just costs HP to do it, but it's a really unique weapon. So Lavis, in addition to being very rare, it's a pretty decent weapon on its own. Unfortunately, in Blue Burst, it is outclassed by Excalibur quite a bit, and Excalibur is actually a lot easier to get. But Lavis Cannon actually has two combinations that are staged. So the way that you actually combine it to make another weapon from this is you equip Lavis Cannon. Lavis Cannon is also found by every section ID. There are some section IDs that are much easier to get it on. I would particularly recommend either Red Rhea Red Slimes or Purple Numtolors. They're probably some of the easier hunts to go for, but it is a hard weapon to find. Once you've got Lavis Cannon, you then want to look for an item called a Cincester, which is this here. So it says in the description, an ore said to be able to control Lavis power. When used on certain items, and it tails off. So it doesn't really give you any hints in the actual Lavis Cannon description either. So a lot of this isn't really explicitly told to you. You have to kind of work it out. But there is that obviously hint in the Cincester description. Now, again, if we go back to that, you can see it says it's able to control Lavis power. Now, there is only one weapon in the game that has Lavis in its name that you can find. So it's obviously got some connection to Lavis Cannon. The connection is that if you equip it on a hunter with at least the requirement to use it, so at least 800 attack, if you then go to the Cincester and press on it, you'll actually get a use option. Just to show you this as well, if I remove Lavis and then go use, the use option disappears. So that tells you that it's a connection to Lavis Cannon. Because I can't do anything with this Cincester at the moment. It's only when I actually equip the Lavis Cannon that then this Cincester becomes usable. Now when I use it, you'll get a little chime and the Lavis Cannon will actually de-equip. And if you then look through your inventory, you'll then see that you've now got a weapon called Lavis Blade, which is now a 12-star weapon. It says a mysterious blade fused with both hands. It's very powerful, and if you use a certain item, it will become. So Lavis Blade, let's cover this first. So this is a 12-star dagger. Very strong dagger. Again, probably outclassed by things like Daylight Scar and Tukamui in Blue Burst, but still a very strong dagger. Looks really cool. And again, has the same special as Lavis Cannon. This is actually a reasonably useful weapon for actually sacrificing HP fast to trigger mag specials, like mag triggers. So that's Lavis Blade. However, we can go another step further as well. So, as you may remember, in the description for Lavis Blade, it says that if you use a certain item, it will become. And we know that Cincester reacts with Lavis weapons. So what if we have another Cincester? Which thankfully we do here. So if you then equip the Lavis Blade and use another Cincester, I should also probably point out at this point that Cincester is also an extremely hard drop. So this is a very, very hard combination to do. But if you equip Lavis Blade and use another Cincester, again we've got the use option. We get another Chime. And then if we go back to our inventory, we've now got a weapon called Double Cannon. And Double Cannon has a really super vague description. Another 12 star, and if we equip it, it's now a double saber. And again, this has a similar special, although I believe it fires all around you as well. So it fires off in 4 different directions. And again, although Double Cannon is a very, very nice weapon, it is, again, unfortunately outclassed by some other weapons like the Black King Bar, which we'll get onto. So this is the Double Cannon. So just to sort of restate that, you start out with Lavis Cannon. You equip it and use a Cincester on it to turn it into Lavis Blade. And then use another Cincester on Lavis Blade while it's equipped to turn it into Double Cannon. I believe as well, I think you can also turn Double Cannon back into Lavis Cannon by using another Cincester. Just in case you want to for some reason. That's the first combination. As I've said though, and I can't stress this enough, this is an extremely hard combination to do. Just purely because Lavis Cannon on its own is incredibly rare, and the Cincester is incredibly rare. I mean, if we take Skylight, for example, if we look at the Skylight section ID, for example, the Lavis Cannon is about a 1 in 28,000 drop from a Ruins Deldy, and then the Cincester drop is about 1 in nearly 12,000 from a Barons in Mines, so it's incredibly hard to get. So generally, it's going to be unlikely that you're going to find both, but the combination is there if you do get them. That's the first combination for Hunter. So let's try something else. So let's go with a couple of the ones that you can get through Paganini's Photon Drop shop. So in the Gallant Shop quest, there is a sub shop in there that Paganini runs, where he trades for Photon Drops. And some of the items that you can get from Paganini, you can use for item combinations. The first one is for the Esperal's Hands weapon. So Esperal's Hand 0 is a weapon that you get by converting the Cinnaberyl Hands body part. Again, there is a guide on my channel that shows you how to convert body parts if you want to see that already. But it's actually a dagger weapon, despite looking like a fist. And this is called Esperal's Hand 0. If you then grind this up to its maximum grind, which is 35, you then want to get an item from Paganini's Photon Drop shop called Beryl Photon, which is this here. It says a special photon that refracts ether. If used with a corresponding item, then you will find that a lot of these items will kind of tail off in the description and kind of leave it up to you to figure out. But it's called Beryl Photon. This is a Esperal's Hands, so it doesn't take a genius to figure out that there's a connection between the two. If you then use the Beryl Photon, it will actually transform this weapon. The other hint that you've got about this as well is that it says that it refracts ether, so it's a subtle comment about like the photon camouflage that Cinnaberyls use. So it's again another hint to what it's for. Again, if you equip the Cinnaberyl's Hands and use the Beryl Photon, it will turn into Esperal's Hands 1. Now the difference with this is it's a little bit stronger, a little bit more accurate. It upgrades the special, I believe, from... I think it goes from Havoc to Chaos. It's still a Confused special, which is kind of useless, honestly, but it's upgraded. But it also gets a visual makeover. So now it actually has photon camouflage. When you attack with it, it does actually appear briefly. Now, this might be a controversial opinion, but I actually think this looks a lot worse than the base weapon. I just don't think the camouflage effect looks very good. But it is a stronger weapon than Esperal's Hand 0. So that's the next combination you can do. So Esperal's Hand 0, grind to 35, equip it on a Hunter, and then use a Beryl Photon on it. So let's look at the next one. This is another one from Paganini's Photon Drop shop. So we did mention this weapon earlier, but if you get a Monkey King Bar, which is a pretty decent double saber, grind it to 25, And then you want to get an item from Paganini's Photon drop shop called a blue blackstone. So the blue blackstone says, an ore said to be found only on Mount Congo. When used on certain items, it... Again, if we equip the Monkey King bar and use this, it will turn into the Black King bar, which I mentioned earlier. The Black King bar is a very, very strong double saber. I believe it's the strongest double saber in the game for attack power when it's grinded, because it grinds to about 80. Very, very good weapon. This is one of the best single target hunter weapons in the game. I'll be honest, I've never been a huge fan of the way it looks, but there's no doubt it is definitely one of the strongest weapons for hunter. So that's another one you can get directly through Paganini's Photon drop shop. With all of these that I've shown so far as well, the attributes on the weapon will carry over. So for example, on the Lavis cannon, if your Lavis cannon, say you got super lucky and you got a Lavis cannon with 30 hit, that 30 hit will then carry over to the Lavis blade, and which will carry over to the double cannon. Similarly with the Monkey King bar, if you got a Monkey King bar that had, for example, 50% native, if you make a Black King bar from that, the Black King bar will have 50 native as well. So it does just carry the percentages over. So next one. Let's sort a couple of items that actually combine two weapons. So the first one of these is Sanga and Yasha. So Sanga and Yasha individually are different katanas. So this is Sanga, which is a pretty easy weapon to get. From Mill Lily for a couple of IDs and from Pan Arms for a couple of others. It's really not that hard to get. And then Yasha is normally it's a much harder katana to get. However, on Blue Burst you can get this through the Black Papers deal quest, which is what I would recommend doing if you are going for this weapon. Because hunting Yasha is a nightmare. It's really, really rough drop. It only drops on 2 section IDs and they're both really almost impossible drops. So just go through Black Papers deal to get Yasha, it's much easier. What you do then is you equip one of them and use the other one. So in this instance, we'll have to use the quick menu actually to switch back to Sanga. So we've got Sanga equipped. If we then go to Yasha in the inventory, what you'll see is if we try switching to another weapon here, it'll just say the usual equip, drop or sort. But if we go over Yasha, it says use, equip or drop. So if we use Yasha on Sanga, again we get the combination sound and they combine into Sanga and Yasha, which is a 12-star twin sword. And you can see there that the percentages have carried over. So this very, very strong twin sword. Looks pretty cool as well. In Blue Burst, it is pretty much outclassed by Jizai, which I'll go on to in a second. But it is still a very, very good weapon. It also gets a set boost with the Blue Adoshi Violet Namado armor as well. So it is a really nice weapon overall. But it is slightly outclassed. But still very, very capable twin sword and still one of the strongest in the game. So on a similar subject, there is another combination in Blue Burst that was added for another twin sword. Now to make this one, you need to find these two weapons, Guren and Shoka. And again, you equip whichever one you want to keep the percentages. So if we go to Guren is a really, really strong katana with a fire special. And then Shoka is another very, very strong katana with an ice special. They're both reasonably awkward to get. That neither of them are uber rare or anything, but they're all like awkward drops. However, again, if you equip one of them and use the other one on it, it will combine them. So in the case of this, if we go to, let's go to Guren. Then we go to the inventory and we, again, hover over this and it just says equip, drop, sort. But if we hover over Shoka, it says use, equip, drop. So we select use, we get the combination effect, and we get Jizai. Now, Jizai is the strongest twin sword in the entire game, and it also has a unreduced hell special, which makes it unbelievably busted in episode 2. It's an incredibly good weapon, and pretty much, I would say it's almost a staple hunter weapon if you can get a good one. I personally use Sanga and Yasha at the minute in my normal account just because I don't have a Guren or a Shoka yet. But there is no doubt that Jizai is a much better weapon than Sanga and Yasha. So you can see we've got the instant kill special, which you not only hit multiple times, but it is unreduced as well, which makes it lethal. So that's another combination for Hunter as well. So the next one is another item and weapon combination. So for this one, you want to have a normal slicer. Now you can use any type. The only restriction is that you have to be a certain level depending on which type of slicer you use, and they have to be at max grind. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I've got a Disca here, which is the highest end slicer, and it's ground to 10, which is the maximum. So you can say just a regular Disca. Now, I would say for this, you want to be using a Disca that's got really, really good percentages, mainly one that's got hit in particular, because otherwise it's just a massive waste. So once you've got your really, really strong Disca, what you can do then is you then want to find an item called Magic Stone Iritista, which is this here. Now this, as far as I'm aware, is a Red Rear exclusive drop, and it tends to drop from Hill to Tar. It's not a particularly easy drop. I think it's about 1 in 21, but it's something you could find if you devoted a good hunt to it. It says a mysterious ore that emits a rainbow flame. When used on certain items, it... And again, if we equip this Disca and use Iritista, they combine and we get an item called Rainbow Baton, which is a pretty strong slicer. I do think it kind of looks pretty awful, but it is a very, very strong slicer. Unfortunately, it only has a Confuse special, which is not particularly useful. There are definitely better slicers in the game, but as we are covering all the different combinations, I still wanted to cover this because it is still pretty strong. So the next one we need to cover is another one that uses a base weapon. So for this one, you want a max grind sword. And again, make sure you get on with really, really good percents. A really easy way to get this is to run the quest Restless Lion in episode 4, which is one of the side story quests. In that, you fight a lot of NPC hunters, and they drop weapons based on what they use. So, for example, the handgun NPC will drop handguns and so on. And there is a sword NPC. Now, the sword NPC is worth farming because the weapons in Restless Lion often have really, really good percents. Quite often you'll find that they'll have 3 percentages on them with either 30 or 50. And quite often they'll have hit as well. So you can just farm Restless Lion in Ultimate until you get something with a 50 hit caliber with some other nice percents. Or alternatively, if you want to farm for one with even higher hit, that's up to you, but that might take longer. So for the purposes of this video, we've got this caliber here. Just regular sword. Nothing special about it at all. What you want to do then is you want to combine this with an item called Parasitic Gene Flow. So Parasitic Gene Flow is a very, very rare item. It's about a 1 in 64 drop from Ultimate Olga Flow on certain IDs. Very, very hard to get. This has 3 different combinations, but only one of them is relevant to hunters. So what this does is it says it's a special gene that eats away objects on the photon level and transfigures them. So you can probably guess where this is going if you've seen Olga Flow, given what Olga Flow uses. So if you equip the sword and use Parasitic Gene Flow, it will turn your sword into a weapon called Dark Flow. Dark Flow is Olga Flow's sword. Now this is a really, really crazy weapon. So with this weapon, it's one of the strongest swords in the game for attack power. However, it can't combo. You can see if I try and combo with it, I just get 1 hit. And when you first use it, it might confuse you because the special it basically just does a hard attack. The real use of this weapon though is when you're on low HP. So to make that happen, let's quickly put our double cannon. And let's just wear our HP down a bit. Yeah. I believe it needs to be at about 12% HP around there. When you're at that HP, and then you put Dark Flow, if you then use the special attack, you get this huge energy wave. I'll see if I can show this to you. It's kind of hard to see, but Because the screen gets lit up so much by the attack, it's hard to see the damage, but it pretty much one-shot that lily. So this is the Dark Flow. So it's a very, very niche weapon, and it's very good in the right hands, but it is very, very difficult to use, and very difficult to use in parties as well. Because particularly if you've got a Force in the party, the Force is going to want to heal people when they're on low health. And if you're using Dark Flow, you don't want to be healed. So it is a very awkward weapon to use, but really strong in the right hands. So that's Dark Flow. Now, there is one more combination that I want to cover in this video. But to do that, we actually need to go into a quest, because it's not actually a straight up item combination. It's a way of transforming another item. So for this last combination, the item you need is you need the Agito, and you need the 1975 version, which is the real one. So if we go to this, you can see we've got the 1975 Agito here. There are several different versions of this weapon, but most of them are fakes that are just not worth using. It's this one that you're wanting. The way to tell which one's the real one at first glance as well is just look at the rarity level, because all of the Agito are 10 star, apart from this one is 11. So this is the real one. Just remember that a 75 is the real one. Once you've got this, there is actually a way to restore this, because if you look at any of the Agito weapons, what you'll find is that they look really corroded and really rusted. So you can see here, if I equip the 1975 Agito, it might be hard to tell because of the light, but you can see it kind of looks rusted and worn out. And that's because it's in a really poor condition, it needs restoring. So there is a quest in the game in episode 1 called Seek My Master. And if you load that quest and just run to where your character bank is, you'll see there's a Tekka stood at the bank. Now this Tekka, he's not used for teching items, he's actually used particularly to restore the Agito. He would also check other Agitos to see if they're the real one as well, so if you're not sure you've got a real one, just show it to him, and as long as you show him one of the Agito, he will tell you if it's a fake or if it's a real one. If you show him the 1975, he'll get overly excited and he'll say it's the real one, and he'll say that he'd love to work on it and restore it for you. Once you do that, he'll ask if you want to give him it. You give him the 1975 Agito, and then he will return a few minutes later with the restored version. Now, the restored version is called, in PSO, it's actually called the Orochi Agito. It should be called Orochi Agito, it's just a bit badly translated. But this, if we equip this now, you can see now it's all shiny, and this is the fully restored 1975. Very, very strong katana, and it has a special, a little bit like Lavis cannon, but actually fires a piercing wave, the cost of a bit of HP. So, pretty interesting weapon overall. There is one massive downside with this weapon though, and that is that all of the combinations that I've shown you so far retain the attributes when they get converted. Unfortunately, when you give the Tekka your 1975 Agito, the Orochi Agito that you get back is all zeros. So if you have a 1975 that's got really, really good percentages, for example, say if you got one with hit, it might actually be worth keeping it as a 1975 because it has an instant kill special anywhere. And it might actually be worth just keeping that as a 75 just for collector's value as well. Just because you will lose that hit percentage when you convert it into the Orochi. So just bear that in mind. If you're not bothered about percentages, or if you've got a 1975 that's got really bad percentages, then by all means convert it. But if you've got one with really good percent, you might want to keep it as the base model. But this is the finished product anyways. This is the Orochi Agito. So that pretty much covers all of the hunter-centric combinations. So I'll leave this one there just so it doesn't drag on too much. I will do some more of these videos as well that cover all the ranger combinations, all the force combinations, and there are quite a few different armor combinations as well. So we'll cover those probably in subsequent videos just so this one doesn't drag on too long. Hope it's been useful overall. If you've got any questions or anything, just leave them in the comments below. I will try and answer what I can. I realise that the combination system can be a little bit confusing sometimes, and it can be a bit overly vague. So if you've got any questions or you're not sure or anything, just leave a comment below and I will try and answer it if I can. For the meantime though, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, or joining as a member. I do 2 videos a week. Normally one is NGS and one is PSO or PSU, or one of the other Phantasy Star games. I also stream once a week on Sundays as well. So I think this week we're going to be playing some PSO and a little bit of PSU as well. So I hope to see some of you there. But for the meantime, I'll see you guys in the next video.